Good day everyone, I will be presenting our research study titled Developing an Interactive 360 Walkthrough of MME Shop and Laboratory for ME136P, ME123L, and ME137L. Courses like ME123L, ME137L, ME136P are where MME students will learn about machines like lathes, shapers, CUTM, and other tools in the workshop. A 360-degree walkthrough of these facilities will allow students easier access to information regarding these machines as if they are really inside the room. For the statement of the problem, weather disturbances, holidays, and people suddenly getting sick are some of the reasons why these laboratory facilities are sometimes not used or not available for students. It also stands to reason that they will have a more hands-on experience rather than a classroom type of discussion in these kinds of courses. Because of this, a detailed informational guide that is available 24/7 to be used by the students may prove beneficial. Also, because the wooden metal working shop are for the most part for MME students, this is a chance for students outside the MME department to have a look at what is inside the facilities. Objectives of the study. The general objective of the study is to develop an informational guide that will contain much information on the parts, functions, and various trivialities about the machinery inside the Mapua MME Wooden Metal Working Shop and UTM room. For the specific objectives, first is to create a 360 virtual walkthrough that shows the parts of the machines and tools used in the shop and laboratory. Secondly, to develop an interactive website for accessing the said 360 virtual walkthrough information guide. Third, to integrate the said guide in a 360-degree walkthrough for a more in-depth experience. Fourth, to develop manuals that will go together with the 360 walkthroughs. And lastly, to calibrate through survey the effectiveness of the said 360 virtual walkthrough. For the significance of the study, this study can serve as a reference for mechanical engineering students for their courses involving the wooden metal working shop and UTM, namely the ME123L, ME137L, and ME136P. Also, this walkthrough will be available around the clock so students can access it whenever necessary. The scope and limitation of this study is that this study will only be focusing on the MMA woodworking and metalworking shop and the UTM room. The content of the walkthrough shall include information about the parts, functions, procedure, and safety measures regarding the machinery and tools inside. Theoretical consideration for a brief discussion of the principles applied in the study. The first principle was taken from the Guide to Panoramic Photography by Arnold Frick in 2021, where he stated that a 360-degree camera typically has two sensors which take two photos at the same time in opposite direction with the use of wide-angle lenses. In this guide, he also stated the equation for the ratio of an image, where ratio is equal to height over width of an image. If the ratio between the height and width of an image is a half, it is considered a panoramic photo. A ratio of 1/7 is typically used in 360-degree panoramic photos. Here's an example of panoramic photos and their respective ratios, ratio of 1/3 and a half and ratio of a seventh. In order to create a 360-degree view of a subject using conventional cameras, we typically take 6 wide-angle photos horizontally in the top and bottom view. A software will then render it to make a whole 360-degree view of the photo. Here's a sample of a 360-degree photo captured by a panoramic camera. For the 360-degree camera consideration, this is the list of panoramic cameras that are commercially available where the researchers chose from. It was concluded by the researchers that Ricoh Theta SE was the best choice out of the four. Further technical specs of the Ricoh Theta SE 360 camera. Next, we have the methodology. The process flowchart of the methodology is divided into three phases: the research phase, followed by the development phase, and the data gathering phase. The first step in the research phase was to familiarize the parts and function of each machine in each facility. To understand the machine, familiarization of the basic information regarding the parts and functions are necessary, and a simple research was done to achieve this step. The second step in the research phase was to note the safety precautions needed in using the machines and tools. When it comes to working with machines, safety is the number one priority. So, along with the basic parts and functions of each of the machines, the researchers also had to familiarize themselves with the safety precautions. The information obtained in this step was then used in creating the manuals that was integrated in the website along with the 360 virtual walkthrough. The third step was the selection of the 360 camera. Three factors were considered in selecting the 360 camera. First is the resolution, which will display the quality of the pictures used in the virtual tour. Second is the price, which should be affordable or within the budget of the research. And last is the availability, which pertains to whether the 360 camera is available in the market. As stated a while ago, the 360 camera Ricoh Theta SE was selected for this study. This is the full technical specs of the Ricoh Theta SE 360 camera. The first step for the development phase was to take the photos of the wood workshop, metal workshop, and the UTM laboratory using the 360 camera. Each photo was taken at different positions in the room to create a seamless 360-degree walkthrough when integrated using the selected software for creating the walkthrough. The second step in the development phase was to create the 360 walkthrough by integrating the photos taken using the selected software. An online 360 virtual tour creator called Thesis was a selected application. Thesis was the optimal platform to be used for this study as the researchers deemed that there were nuances in the ease of use, availability, and number of options in editing the tour. Hence, the researchers decided to use the platform most suitable to their preferences and are also fitting for the study. The final step in the development phase was to provide the necessary information of the equipment and tools in the designated workshop and laboratory. Parts and functions will most likely be found in the virtual tour where it can be seen by clicking icons for hotspots. On the other hand, operating procedures and safety precautions will be found in the manual provided in the website. So for the first step for the data gathering phase was the presentation and data gathering of the 360 walkthrough. The tour was mainly presented to students taking ME123L, ME137L, and ME136 courses. They had the chance to access and freely navigate the website, which include links to manuals and links to the actual tour. In addition, MME students that have already finished the courses will be given the chance to also access the walkthrough. The next step was the assessment of the effectiveness of the walkthrough. An assessment was given to the current takers of ME137L and ME136P, where they answered a 20-item test to determine the effectiveness of the walkthrough. Meanwhile, MME students who are finished with the courses was given a survey to get their opinion about the walkthrough. The last step in the data gathering phase is the completion of the walkthrough. The content shown in the walkthrough will be discussed by the professor and used by the students. After revisions were made and their feedbacks have been satisfied, the virtual walkthrough was completed. Discussion and analysis of the results. The 360 walkthrough of the facilities was shown to the students from the sections of ME136P and ME137L. They were given a link to the website for them to access. The website's homepage contains a direct link to the virtual tour and manuals that the students can use. Tabs in the upper right corner of the homepage will redirect the students to the link and page that they want to open. In the manuals page of the website, different manuals for each equipment are presented. Information contained in the manual will show the parts of the machine, operating procedures, and safety precautions. Different icons can be used to navigate around the virtual tour. By clicking the arrow icons, the user will move to a different location of the room. They can also pan or rotate the camera at different angles by dragging the cursor along the screen while the right mouse button is being held. Clicking the eye icon will show information regarding the machine and its specific parts, while clicking the YouTube icon will show a video about the machine and its operation. Assessment of ME136P and ME137L students. The assessments that the students took was a simple 20-item multiple-choice type of test which consists of questions focused on information regarding the equipment and tools in the shop's laboratory. The test was conducted from the 7th week up to the 10th week of the first quarter of the 2020 to the 2021 academic year, and the students could answer the test at their own time during the testing period. Discussion of results of the ME136P student assessment. Table 5.1 and 5.2 shows the list of scores from the two sections of ME136P. The first group, consisting of OL51 students, took the test with only traditional learning method as their basis of answering. The second group, consisting of the OL52 students, took the test with the aid of the walkthrough. 39 students were chosen for each group to answer the test. Descriptive statistics was used to provide a summary that would simply describe the features of the data in a sample. Table 5.3 and 5.4 shows the variables for describing the data based on the scores. It was observed that OL52 had a higher score compared to OL51. The sum of scores for OL52 was 124 points greater than the sum of OL51. As seen from the table, OL52 had a higher mean value of 18.667 compared to the mean of OL51, which is 15.513. OL52 had a median of 20, which is higher compared to the median of OL51, which is only 16. Also, the mode of OL51 was 18 and 20, having 7 of each in the data, while for OL52 it was 20, having 22 in the data. The figures represent the histogram of OL51 and OL52. It shows the scores gained from the assessment and the number of people that got each score. The figure shows the box plot comparing the two sections of ME136P. OL51 shows a median score of 16 and a mean of 15.512. Most of the students got scores between 13 and 19, which meant that the interquartile range or the IQ range was 6. It was observed that some got scores that are as low as 6 and as high as 20, while the outlier score for OL51 was 2. OL52 shows a median score of 20 and a mean of 18.6667. Most of the students got scores between 18 and 20, which meant that the interquartile range or the IQ range was 2. It was observed that some got scores that are as low as 15 and as high as 20, while the outlier score was 13. Inferential statistics was used to conclude if the difference in the data is statistically significant and infer a generalization about the population from the sample. A two-sample t-test was used to determine whether there is a significant difference between the means of the two sections of ME136P. Table 5.5 shows a descriptive statistics of ME136P that consists of the mean, standard deviation, and standard error mean. It was observed that the standard deviation of OL52 was smaller compared to OL51, which meant that the spread of data around the mean of OL52 was lesser compared to OL51. Also, the standard error represents the variation of the means of the sample. From the table, OL52 has a similar standard error mean compared to OL51. This means that if the two samples were to take the test several times, the means of OL52 will vary less compared to OL51. To conclude whether there is a significant difference between the population means, the p-value was compared to the significance level. Commonly, a 95% confidence level would indicate that a significance level of 5% or 0.05 would be used. It was observed that the p-value in table 5.8 is 0.000, which is lower compared to the significance level of 0.05. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected, and it can be concluded that the difference between the population mean is statistically significant. Discussion of results of the ME137L student assessments. Table 5.9 and 5.10 shows the list of scores from the two groups of ME137L. The first group, consisting of E01 and E02 students, took the test with only traditional learning method as the basis for answering. The second group, consisting of the E03 and E04 students, took the test with the aid of the walkthrough. 33 students were chosen for each group to answer the test. Table 5.11 and 5.12 shows the variables for describing the data based on the scores. The sum of scores of the second group was 103 points greater than the sum of the first group. For the mean, the first group had a lower mean value of 14.97 compared to the mean value of the second group, which is 18.09. The median of the first group is 16, which is lower compared to the median of the second group, which is 18. Also, the mode of the first group was 20, having 8 students that got the score, while the second group got a mode of 18 and 20, having 8 students each that got the score. These figures represent the histogram of the section of ME137L. It shows the scores gained from the assessment and the number of people that got each score. The figure shows the box plot comparing the two groups of ME137L. The first group shows a median of 16 and a mean of 14.9697. Most of the students got scores between 12.5 and 18.5, which meant that the interquartile range or IQ range is 6. It was observed that some got scores that are as low as 4 and as high as 20. The second group shows a median of 18 and a mean of 18.0909. Most of the students got scores between 17 and 19.5, which meant that the IQ range is 2.5. It was observed that some got scores that are as low as 15 and as high as 20. For the inferential statistics of ME137L, same with ME136P, a two-sample t-test was used to determine whether there is a significant difference between the means of the two groups of ME137L. it was observed that the standard deviation of the second group was smaller compared to the first group. Also, the second group had a smaller standard error mean compared to the first group. To conclude whether there is a significant difference between the population means of ME137L, the p-value was also compared with a significant level. Same with ME136P, it was observed that the p-value in table 5.16 was 0.000, which is lower compared to the significance level of 0.05. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected, and it can be concluded that the difference between the population means is statistically significant. In conclusion, alluding to the general and specific objectives of the study, the researchers were able to produce an informational guide for ME123L, ME137L, and ME136P. This guide included parts, functions, and safety precautions for the machineries inside the said facilities. More importantly, this guide included manuals and video demonstration for a more extensive collection of information. And lastly, this guide was integrated in a website of its own to be used by students. After conducting the study, the researchers were able to conclude that there is a statistically significant effect on the students' learning capabilities. Students that used the virtual tour had a significantly higher score compared to the students that did not use it. These were the key values from the survey conducted. 87.1% of the respondents think that the website and virtual tour was user-friendly while navigating. 95.7% of the respondents preferred to have access to any form of virtual tour when they were taking the courses. 91.4% of the respondents think that the website and virtual tour will help aid students in familiarizing equipment. 81.4% of the respondents think that the website and virtual tour has presented the necessary information regarding the equipment. 84.3% of the respondents think that the website and virtual tour is effective in giving information, and 90% of the respondents think that the walkthrough is a viable method for conducting lectures where classes can be done in person. For the recommendation, the researchers recommend to firstly select a 360 camera that would create a better quality image for the tour. This will help the user see the tour more clearly as well as the minute parts of the machines. Also, video demonstrations about actual lab experiments may prove more useful than videos of general information about the machine. Lastly, the researchers also recommend to conduct a more in-depth tests that can assess the effectiveness of the virtual tour better. That is all for my presentation. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching.